Have I ever shouted at you?
I don't know. I mean, you've been angry at me.
Yeah, but I'm angry most of the times.
Yeah, but you've been like genuinely angry at me.
Just a few times. Have you ever been angry at me?
Probably, but I probably didn't tell you. I just
Why
kept it.
wouldn't you tell me? I want to be like I just that really frustrates me. Yeah,
All
because
right, but let's not be frustrated now because it's a hypothetical. I don't remember any specific incident. Should we start?
Have we not started yet?
Two friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. It's called Culture Bucket. Two friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. Culture Bucket, Georgia and Alex.
Hi everyone, welcome to Culture Bucket. Today we are, after last week's venture into the dark world of villains, we are this week going all the way over to a lighter side for Disney. We are going to be talking our top 5 Walt Disney Animation Studios films. Yeah? And
Yeah.
I'm your host, George, and with me is your other host, as always, the always effervescent Alex.
Hi, George. Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Effervescent.
hi, Alex.
What a beautiful word to describe me.
Thank you.
Not
It
angry.
means sort of like you're.
But effervescent.
No, you're just like a glass of Coca-Cola, but like a really fresh from the bottle.
The really crispy one that kind of irritates your nose, but then is really pleasurable.
Yeah. Or like Iron Brew, which is the most effervescent of fizzy drinks.
You know, I've never drank an Iron Brew.
Well, you can't now because they've changed the recipe, but it used to be because it used to have like a kilo of sugar. I think they'd worked out exactly how much sugar they could put into liquid before it started going gritty, and just put that much sugar in. So it used to be absurd, and you'd open a bottle, and literally, I once poured a glass of Iron Brew, and a bubble popped and just exploded in my eye. It was so strong. It's not quite like that anymore, though. It's still nice. I don't know what it's meant to taste of, but it's good stuff. But it's not the same. It doesn't have the same level of effervescence that it used to.
Huh, interesting.
None of this is why we're here. We're here to talk about pop culture. So
well, I guess
it is
culture, isn't it? Because Iron Brew has never left the United Kingdom, I don't think.
I don't know. I don't think it really has. Certainly not in any big way.
No.
They've probably exported a little bit.
Yeah.
Originally from Scotland. Give it up for Scotland.
Yeah, baby.
With the Iron Brew.
This is Culture Catch-Up Time. This is where we talk about what we've watched, what we've read, what we've listened to, and probably some other stuff. Culture Catch-Up Time.
I guess I have to start by talking about Joss Whedon, which I don't want to do.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Joss Whedon.
Yeah, let's talk about Joss Whedon. So it's relevant because, I mean, literally, like, a load of stuff, like, the week that we put out the episode where I listed my top 10 episodes as a hilarious interlude in the top 5 musicals part, was also the week where loads of stuff has come out about Joss Whedon. So we should talk about it now.
Yes.
Yeah. He's terrible.
What happened? Like,
He's a terrible, awful man. Well, so, like, anyone who's been listening to our podcast consistently knows that I've talked about Buffy the Vampire Slayer a lot because I did a rewatch of it late last year. And I do, it reminded me how much I love it, and it informed a large part of who I was as a teenager and stuff. And it's a pretty important piece of pop culture to me, as is Firefly, another show he did, and Angel. And for years, little stories would come out about Joss Whedon that made him sound like either this kind of incredible guy that everybody loved, or kind of a prick. And you never really knew what was the truth about him. Like, there was this story about how he made a film. He made like a Shakespeare adaptation
Mm.
of Much Ado About Nothing, I think it was, and he filmed it in his house of all of these. He always reuses actors. So all these actors from what they call the Whedonverse were in it, and it had started because he'd have these parties at his house where people would come round and perform monologues to each other and stuff like that. It's all sounded very pretentious and Hollywoody, but that was
Yeah.
how it came about, and he made this movie. And it was a bit like, well, if he has these actors he always goes back to, and they always work with him, maybe he, they must like him, they must get on with him.
Yeah.
But then stories would also come out where Amber Benson, who played Tara, said that he pulled her aside when they were filming the finale of season 5 and said, "Oh, I'm really excited to tell you something about your character. It's really awesome. Next season, we're going to kill you. You're going to die." And like, that was always kind of, people would talk about that as if it was like this funny kind of anecdote about Joss Whedon. But really, it's kind of like a really obnoxious way of telling someone that they're being fired, essentially, as an actor, if you see what I mean. So there's always been like two sides to him when people talk about him, and it's never been, I don't know, I've always not really kind of been clear on exactly who he was. Then in 2017, he broke up with his wife. She put out this statement about basically accusing him of having spent a decade cheating on her.
Oh.
And that, like, accusing him of basically using his status as a bit of a feminist icon to mask quite cruel and unpleasant attitudes towards women in his personal life, if you see what I mean. So since about 2017, I've been a bit like not super pumped to hear about any new work from Joss Whedon, if you see what I mean. That was kind of the stance I took at that point, was to be a bit like, I'm not really interested in anything new he does because he sounds like a bit of a jerk, but, Buffy is still Buffy and all of that. Then, last year, Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg in the Justice League film, spoke out against him, because what happened with the Justice League film was Zack Snyder was making it, then Zack Snyder, due to a personal tragedy, had to step away from the movie. Joss Whedon got brought in to finish it and essentially like reshot a bunch of it and turned it into his own thing. And Ray Fisher came out of these, and it was, I mean, the movie was terrible, but that's what happened. And Ray Fisher, who plays Cyborg in the movie, came out last year with all these statements about how Joss Whedon had been super unprofessional and abusive and horrible on the set of Justice League.
Wow.
And there was like an internal investigation at Warner Brothers where they make it. And basically the internal investigation seemed to be a bit like, well, we're not going to do anything about it. And Ray Fisher, kind of carried on complaining publicly about it, but everyone seems to have this attitude of like, just let's drop it now. Until last week, early to mid-February in 2021, Charisma Carpenter, who played Cordelia in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and then in Angel, put out this long statement on her Instagram account, which is worth going and reading. I won't read it out on here because it's very, like, it's 2 kind of slides long. It's a really long account, but it describes her experiences on the set of both those TV shows, and it sounds horrific. Amongst, I'd say, the most horrible experience that she recounts would be when she became pregnant during filming Angel, and he called her into his office and she was on her own, and he asked her if she was going to keep the baby, made fun of her religious beliefs, and then ultimately fired her when she gave birth. And like, for years no one's really known why she left Angel during season 4 exactly, but now it's kind of come out as to why. So Charisma Carpenter's put out this thing that was kind of painted a picture of somebody who was really unpleasant and abusive, and quite quickly Amber Benson, who played Tara, backed her up.
Wow.
Michelle Trachtenberg, who played Dawn, backed her up. Anthony Stewart Head did this interview where he was a bit like, I'm just upset. I didn't, and kind of claimed to have never realised any of it, and seems quite shook by the whole kind of sudden having to realign his memories of making the show. Sarah Michelle Gellar, who played Buffy, put out a statement that was a little bit, it's a fair enough statement really, but it basically says, I'm really focused on getting through the pandemic and looking after my children, but I don't want to be associated with Joss Whedon anymore, and I support Charisma Carpenter, was sort of what Sarah Michelle Gellar said. And basically most people seem to have now come out and said that, they stand and support Charisma Carpenter. And
that's really good.
I think it's pretty clear that us at Culture Bucket, as tiny and unimportant as we are, would also say we stand with Charisma Carpenter, if you see what I mean. And Joss Whedon's a terrible, terrible person the thing that really hurts as a fan of his work is that it kind of was held up as this feminist piece as this kind of like really important like feminist icon. Like Buffy was a powerful woman who kind of, you know, solved problems on her own, and to have the person who created that and was held up as a feminist for that be kind of shown to be actually a misogynist and pretty unpleasant is pretty upsetting, though not as upsetting as it would have been to have worked with him and gone through those experiences. It's pretty awful for those people, for certain. Like Michelle Trachtenberg put out a thing saying, because she was a teenager when they were making Buffy, she put out a thing saying there was a rule that she wasn't allowed to be in the room alone with him, and she hasn't really expanded on what that meant, but that's it. Yeah, it just sounds like it's all coming out and sounding like it was just a bad time, which sucks, because I love Buffy and I'm still going to carry on, you know, loving Buffy and respecting the work of the actresses and people, you know, all the Martin Oxon, who was a showrunner later on in the series and stuff like that, like respecting their work and enjoying their work. But it's going to stain it now that ultimately at the end of the day it was the creation of this man who's pretty appalling.
Yeah, and even though in the kind of working environment they were in, they managed to create a really great show. You know, it's not always easy. I guess they also had each other to support each other, and that's good.
Yeah, definitely. People are a bit. Alison Hannigan, who played Willow, and David Boreanaz, who played Angel, are the two that haven't said anything yet, and people are a bit like, "Come on, what? Say something, please."
Well, the thing is, like, so, I think the more time goes on, the more we realize that certain behaviors are not acceptable. So and the more we grow and the more, you know, we get into like the future, I don't know, we realize that certain behaviors are not acceptable. So sometimes I feel in the past and still now we accepted and we still accept behavior that is not acceptable, considering it normal behavior, and maybe you have a different perception. I'm not saying that the people that have come out are not right. I'm saying that you at the time had a different perception of that, and you might have experienced the time not in a bad way, just because that's what you're used to.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's clear that Charisma Carpenter struggled a lot. Sorry, my phone's ringing.
No,
I think there's an Amazon package for me. Yeah, it is an Amazon. I'll be just a second. Sorry.
Don't forget your mask. It's interesting because we always expect people to release a statement and to say something, but then thinking about myself, and if I have to like stand up to something, you have to be really careful what you say, because you might have not experienced the same things, but you want to be supportive. How on earth can you be, you know, I know you have a full team of people, but people, especially now, read what you say in like the minuscule most like thought, and so I don't know. You have to be really careful.
That's why I think probably like Sarah Michelle Gellar and Anthony Head were quite good with it, where they just sort of were like, you know, they didn't make any allegations of their own, but they just made it clear that they stood with Charisma Carpenter and her experiences.
Yeah.
She's so good. She's so good as Cordelia. It's horrible to think that she was, you know, suffering when she was doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, such is the way.
Never
it's
mind.
Horrible. But yeah, so that said, let's move on to some more positive stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Let's see. WandaVision was brilliant again this week, but maybe we should put a pin in WandaVision and talk about it again after it's finished fully. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's great.
It was
Halloween
so good.
episode this week.
It was so good. Yeah. Like, it gets better and better. Wow. Yeah.
And do you know that the next show is going to start like a week or two after WandaVision finishes?
Really?
Yeah, like it's going to roll straight into Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's going to be like within a couple of weeks of WandaVision finishing. It's pretty good. So I watched a true crime documentary on Netflix called I think the title is Crime Scene: Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel or something. Mm-hmm. It's a true crime documentary. It's 4 episodes long. Each one's about 50 minutes, and it's about this girl called Elisa Lam who tragically died whilst staying at the Cecil Hotel in about 2011. Made famous because of this video footage that was released after when she had disappeared, but nobody knew if she died or not. They put out this video footage asking if anyone could help find her. That was her in the lift in the hotel, kind of acting really erratically, and like in a way that people almost thought that she was being hunted by an unseen person or haunted by a ghost, or all kinds of crazy theories came out because this footage is so strange. But then what ultimately happened was just a really sad, tragic story of somebody with mental health difficulties. And I just would recommend maybe reading up on if you're interested in the case, look it up on the internet, read up on it. Don't watch the documentary because it's pretty exploitative, I think, of the case.
Okay.
And it does this irritating thing where it kind of talks about there was a documentary called Don't F with Cats a year or so ago that was quite similar, where it really focuses on internet sleuths that try to solve the case over the internet, and in this case it's like YouTubers making videos about it. And it has this section where it talks about this guy who stayed in the Cecil Hotel and was a death metal musician, so there were YouTube videos of him for his music videos for his band that were really dark and graphic and about people being murdered and stuff. And because of that, he had done an Instagram post that he'd stayed in the hotel, and because he was a death metal musician, all these YouTube people were like, oh my god, he's the killer, and people started harassing him online and, you know, trying to get him in trouble and all this kind of stuff. And obviously he didn't do it, he had nothing to do with it, but the documentary doesn't mention that he stayed in the hotel a full year or so before she did. So really, he had no crossover with her at all. So the documentary, on one hand, wants you to sort of judge these YouTubers for harassing this guy for thinking based on nothing that he'd done this murder. But then on the other hand, edits itself in a way where it makes you think that he might be the murderer. And he's a real guy. This isn't a story. This is things that really happened. It's not correct to even for a second allow you to imagine that this man might be a murderer, because he's not. And maybe as I'm saying that, I'm realising that that's something a lot of true crime documentaries do, and it's part of the storytelling of it, and I understand that. But something about the way this particular documentary was made rubbed me up the wrong way. So it's kind of doing the rounds at the moment on Netflix. Loads of people are watching it. And I would just recommend, there's so many podcasts about the Elisa Lam case and stuff like that that do it in a more that tell her story in a more tasteful way. I'd recommend looking up some of them rather than watching the documentary on Netflix. Other than that, I watched a couple of films this week. I watched The Fly, the Jeff Goldblum, David Cronenberg movie from the 80s, which I'm guessing you haven't seen.
No, The Fly, like the
No.
fly, like a fly, like bzz, fly.
Yeah. Do you know what it's about? No? So, Jeff Goldblum is a scientist called
Is
Seth
he?
Brundle.
When is Jeff Goldblum
Yeah,
not
yeah,
a
yeah.
scientist? That's amazing.
Alex, I mean,
I love it.
You'd struggle a bit with this movie because it gets pretty graphically body horror-ish and pretty horrible, but it's the most Jeff Goldblum role that he's ever played, ever. Like he's like turned up to 11 in it. It's amazing.
Wow.
But yeah, he plays a scientist called Seth Brundle, and he's invented teleportation pods that allow you to teleport something from one side of a room to another, or from one pod to another pod. It can be teleported across. He invites a reporter played by Gina Davis, who is so good in this movie.
She's good in every movie.
Yeah. Her and Jeff Goldblum were partners when they made this, and then they got married a little bit later, and then split up and stuff. But yeah.
What? This is
so he
news. This is what they were. What?
Yeah,
Jeff
yeah,
Goldblum
yeah.
and Virginia Davis.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I did not know
and
that.
they get romantically involved in this film, and the chemistry that it was a good casting.
Oh.
So yeah, he shows off this thing. He teleports her stocking from one pod to another. Yeah.
He shows her thing. She shows him her things.
Yeah, exactly. And then he tries to teleport a baboon, and the teleporter turns the baboon inside out, and it's disgusting. And he's like, oh, he doesn't understand organic material yet. He fixes it, and he successfully transports a baboon, and then he gets drunk, and he's like, right, I'm going to do a human test. I'm going to transport myself.
Oh.
And he tries to teleport himself across the room, and a fly gets into the teleporter with him, and the teleporter gets confused, and instead of teleporting them both across the room, it splices their DNA together, and he comes out of the teleporter, and he's still Jeff Goldblum, but then over the course of the rest of the movie, he slowly starts to sort of turn and become Brundlefly. And it's wonderful. It's like a perfect movie. It's such a good film. The way Jeff Goldblum performs as he like starts to lose control of himself, and like these different things are happening to him, and and at the end, I was crying by the time it finished. It's such a kind of emotional movie.
Aww.
It's heartbreaking. It's a great film. I think you'd enjoy it. I think you'd find a lot to like in it. But it is. Some of the effects and stuff are pretty. There's a bit where he has an arm wrestling competition. He's got really strong because I guess he's got the strength of a fly. I don't know, and I guess proportionally, if you made a fly as big as a person, it would be really strong. So I don't know. And he has an arm wrestling competition with this guy and just like snaps this guy's arm in half, and the bone kind of starts coming. It's pretty gnarly stuff, but there's a lot of substance behind it, and it's great. It's a perfect. I hadn't seen it since I was a teenager. I remember liking it as a teenager, but I realised watching it, now that it's kind of a perfect movie. It's really good. Then I watched a film. I watched a film on Netflix called Red Dot, which is a new Netflix movie that's brilliant. I'd really recommend it to people. It's a Swedish film about a young couple who are about a year into being married, and they're sort of struggling to connect with each other a bit, so they decide to go on a camping trip in the north, in the snow and under the northern lights, and it's going to be very romantic, just the two of them and their dog. They go on this camping trip, and they wake up on the first night, and there is a sniper's red dot pointed at them, and they, obviously they don't know where it's coming from, so it's pretty tense and gritty, and a really good kind of grim film, sort of Scandinavian dark drama. I would recommend that. Red Dot is really good, and it's on Netflix, so everyone can watch it. Then I watched the Brad Pitt movie Moneyball. Have you seen Moneyball?
No, actually. Sorry. Just my my earphone just popped out of my ear. Moneyball. I have not seen Moneyball.
Moneyball is a Brad Pitt film about a guy who he's a general manager for a baseball team, the Oakland A's, I think they're called in America, and it's a true story of him like just kind of trying to work out a way where they can start winning games despite being like the poorest team, because the way baseball works is the teams with the most money just buy the best players and then win all the games essentially, and they don't have enough money to do that, so he kind of comes up with a different way using statistics of building a team that can win games despite not being kind of the expensive players, which is an interesting story. It's kind of one of those brilliant movies where it's just people who are really competent and good at their job being good at their job and succeeding, if you see what I mean. And sometimes it's quite nice to just watch one of those films where the drama is minimal. Like there's a few people that are skeptical of his new way of doing things in baseball, but ultimately they're just arguing about baseball. It doesn't really matter. He obviously is right ultimately, and the team does really well. And it's just nice to just watch it play out and enjoy Brad Pitt being a competent man, along with Jonah Hill, who's in it and is pretty good. So yeah, I don't understand baseball, so parts of the movie were totally lost on me, but it's still quite an entertaining film if you just want to sit down for a couple of hours and watch something that's quite peaceful. I'd recommend Moneyball for sure. Then the only other film I watched is called Wrong Turn. It's a slasher movie from 2003. It stars Eliza Dushku as a teenager who's being menaced by some cannibal hillbillies in the woods, and it's rubbish. So don't watch. If you've never seen Wrong Turn, there's absolutely no reason to watch it, so please don't. I listened to 3 Adam Buxton episodes this week, which I haven't listened to any for a while, so that was exciting.
Okay.
I listened to Paul McCartney that you said you'd listen to.
Was that not a good episode?
It was a good one.
It was, wasn't it? I feel like my perception of him kind of changed.
My perception of Paul McCartney has always been that he's a kind of a gentle elder statesman of rock, and maybe isn't the world's most interesting man, but is an amiable guy. And that's my impression of him. And the Adam Buxton podcast just sort of reinforced that.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But I liked it. It was good. I really enjoyed Adam having his mic on for 2 minutes before the interview started, and you just kind of heard him freaking out about how he was about to interview Paul McCartney, which is exactly how you would be if you were doing that. That's kind of the biggest name he's had, pretty much, I think.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah. It was interesting. It was cool. So I also listened to the Robbie Williams episode. Have you listened to that?
So good.
I really, really like that episode. Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so interesting to hear two people who in the 90s knew that they didn't like each other, or especially Robbie Williams knew that Adam Buxton didn't like him.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, because obviously, even if he's not a huge Beatles fan, Adam Buxton would be intimidated because Paul McCartney makes music of the type that Adam Buxton likes, if you see what I mean. But I don't think Adam Buxton sits down and listens to Robbie Williams very often. No. It was interesting to hear that conversation where Robbie is very aware that he's not, like, Adam is not necessarily starstruck by him because he thinks he's talented, if you see what I mean. He is talented. Yeah. But his music isn't for Adam or for me. But he seems like an interesting man.
Oh, he's really interesting. Sure. Like, I really liked him because he's so. He kind of seems like a really real dude. That he knows, and how he was talking about his music. It's like, well, not necessarily what he likes either, but it's something that he sells, or it's.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was really honest, which I thought was really good. I like that.
Or when Adam was talking about how he thought that have you heard Rude Box? Because he plays him his parody of Rude Box.
Yeah. But I don't think I've ever heard Rude Box. I didn't listen to it after.
It's a pretty ridiculous song. Yeah. And like at the time, Adam thought that it was Robbie Williams trying to sound like he was kind of down with current popular culture because it's just got all these references to different things. So he made this quite biting kind of parody of it.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny to hear Robbie Williams just be like, "Oh no, I was just high and being silly." Like it wasn't.
Yes.
I wasn't like calculated in that way. It was a really interesting episode. I really, really enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
And then just because I'm personally a massive fan, I listened to the Stuart Lee interview that he did.
Oh my goodness. It was so good.
Yeah.
Like I love Stuart Lee. And I had moments where I was just crying with laughter.
Yeah, when he was talking about
so funny.
Going out into the street to tell those students to stop partying.
That was so... And I was driving at that point, and
I was driving as well.
I was like, Alex, you could not laugh. That was so fun. I also rewinded. I had to listen to it again.
How old are you?
It was so funny. Yeah, I love Stuart Lee. Yeah. I went to see him live a few years ago, and I thought it was like one of the best things I've ever seen.
Yeah, I've seen him live.
He's one of the best things I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like he's just naturally funny, but in a really normal way.
Yeah, but he's able to take like a phrase or a word and repeat it. And some people hate it. Some people don't understand why it's funny, but he's able to repeat just a single word over and over again and just keep making it funny. He's a naturally very funny guy.
Just the thing about how old are you? Like that's just him asking, how old are you?
But the way he says it, how old are you? It's like me. Anyway, Adam Buxton podcast is really good. Obviously, we talk about that fairly often, but I haven't listened to it in a while.
Yeah,
because I tend to let the episodes build up, and those three in particular I really enjoyed. I don't know where to go next because there's a lot of like when he interviews kind of current comedians, I tend not to listen.
What with Adam Buxton?
Yeah.
Well, I really liked one. Well, have you listened to one with George the Poet? I know I'm obsessive, but have you listened to the one with George the Poet?
No.
Listen to that one. It's really, really good.
All right.
And that might make you go to George's podcast.
All right. Okay.
And then there's one about another poet, which I can't remember his name. Can I check? Do you want a recommendation?
Yeah, if you want
Or do you? Yeah.
No, I'd like a recommendation. Although, I mean, I'm going to sound like I'm an uncultured person now, but I don't like poetry, so I don't know.
Oh,
What
you're
poets are
talking.
gonna
You're
be.
preaching to the mountain. I don't get poetry. I don't get it, and I'm surprised. I really like these two. Like, I don't understand poetry. I was not good at it. I was not good in class. I was like, what is that? Um, I was an angry child. Like, I'm an angry adult. But
No.
I would recommend this because I feel, because of not being a fan of poetry, I kind of, I was surprised I liked these two people so much.
Okay.
So the other one is the episode 142, Benjamin Zephaniah. I thought it was
Oh,
really
right.
interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought,
I'll try and have a listen to that one.
yeah, and I really liked his story as well. What kind of person he is, and I like the one with Rachel Bloom that did
Oh, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Is that a good one?
yeah, it's good.
Okay. I'll definitely
Yeah.
listen to that one. So the only other thing briefly is, and you won't be interested in this, so I won't go on about it too long, but a new Mario game came out this week called Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which is interesting because Super Mario 3D World came out on the Wii U a few years ago, in like 2013, I think. And it's my favorite 3D Mario platformer personally. So if you're talking about Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy, all of those games up to Odyssey, my favorite is Super Mario 3D World. Hardly anyone played it because it came out on the Wii U, which is like Nintendo's least successful console ever. So they've re-released it and they've packed in a kind of a weird side thing called Bowser's Fury with it. And I've been playing a bit of that. Super Mario 3D World holds up. It's still absolutely fantastic. It's just it's just got so many different levels in it, and each one's like based around a different kind of little idea that they build on. And then they throw that idea away and they think of a new idea for the next level. And it's just endless invention and creativity, and it's just so much fun. It's wonderful. Bowser's Fury is this strange thing they've put in, and it took me about 6 hours to finish completely. So it's not a super big game. But it's just packed in with Mario 3D World. It's not. Alex had a facial expression like she was in shock at how short it was, but you were in shock at how long it was.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
I was like, oh, and they're like, oh, was it not long? Okay, yeah, I forgot that you pay like video games for like not 100 hours. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, 6 hours is short for a video
Yeah.
game. But because it's packed in with Mario 3D World, it doesn't need to be really long. But it's interesting. It's set on one big lake that's covered in islands, and each island has a lighthouse on it, like archipelagos. And each lighthouse has
Don't talk
5.
about lighthouses.
Oh yeah, it's not like that. Each lighthouse, if Willem Dafoe suddenly turned up in one of them, that'd be hilarious. But no, each lighthouse has 5 shines you can collect on the island. Each lighthouse has 5 shines you can collect on the island that the lighthouse is on, and the more shines you get, basically it's like collecting stars in any other Mario game. In the center of this lake is a giant, like Godzilla-sized Bowser, and every 5 or 10 minutes he wakes up and starts just breathing fire at you and throwing things at you. And it's all happening within the world it kind of seamlessly happens in this open world, which is unusual for a Mario game. And if you collect enough shines, you can turn yourself into a giant Godzilla-sized Mario in a cat suit and fight the giant Godzilla Bowser. And it's pretty weird and different and interesting for Mario, and I really enjoyed it. So if you have a Nintendo Switch, I would massively recommend that game because it's one of the best games ever made, packed in with this cool side idea. So yeah, it's brilliant. And that's all my culture catch-up for this week. How about you, Alex?
I like it.
Good.
I like Mario. I wish I could play more. Yeah.
So do I. Then we could talk about it on here. Oh, let's try something new as well, by the way. Before we move on to your culture catch-up, I'm going to show you what arrived in my Amazon package today. We can briefly talk about it, and then I'll have a review of it next week. Yeah?
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to show you the cover of this, and you can describe it. Are you ready?
Yes, Queen. Oh my God. What the hell is that? I can see myself. Do I have to say the title of what I can see?
Yeah, what can you say?
Tammy the T-Rex.
Yeah, Tammy and the T-Rex.
Tammy and the T-Rex. Is it a DVD?
It's a Blu-ray, so yeah, it's a DVD.
Blu-ray. I can see an 18, so it's probably gory.
It's a 15, but yeah, it's gory
and sexy.
It stars. Can you see that name?
Denise Richards and Paul Walker.
Yes.
Who on earth is Paul Walker?
Oh, Paul Walker's the guy that was in the Fast and the Furious movies, and then he died really tragically in a car crash.
He's been in other things other than Fast and Furious.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Tammy and the T-Rex is from... Oh, where is it? 1993.
Wow. Did you know that Denise Richards now is one of the housewives of Beverly Hills?
I think I had heard that, yeah. I think this is the first movie she was ever in. Can I read the plot synopsis to you? And then you can see what we think.
We're going rogue. We're going rogue.
Because I'm interested to... I've barely heard of this movie. I've definitely never seen it, but it looks crazy. Tammy is a popular high school cheerleader whose new boyfriend, Michael, might be the love of her life. But Tammy's jealous ex, Billy, won't stand for anyone coming between him and his girl. So he and his friends kidnap Michael, leaving him to be mauled by a lion in a local wildlife reserve. Comatose and at death's door, Michael's body is stolen from the hospital by mad scientist Dr. Wackenstein, who extracts his brain and implants it into a giant robotic T-Rex. Horrified by his predicament and new dinosaur body, Michael escapes from the doctor's lab and begins brutally killing his former bullies. Meanwhile, Tammy and her best friend Byron start searching for a suitable human corpse in which to retransplant Michael's brain.
Great. Enjoy.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah, so come back next week for my review of Tammy and the T-Rex.
Yeah.
It's sure to be exciting. There we go.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah. All right, you ready?
Yeah. Super ready. Okay, so I've listened to Okay Human by Weezer.
Oh yeah, what did you think?
I enjoyed the album. I thought it was cool. However, like I think I texted you a few weeks ago telling you that for me, knowing his age and hearing his songs don't match for me what I'm hearing and him. So I'm a bit kind of still freaked out just because I think maybe his voice is quite boyish and I don't know. I feel like he's stuck, but it's a good album. It's an okay album. It's enjoyable to listen to.
I don't know if that's true on this album. There's a lot of songs about his current life, I think.
Yeah. At one point, he's talking about his wife and his children upstairs, and he's talking about on his piano. And I really like that song. I think that
Playing
was
my
the
piano.
What did I say?
No, you were right. No, it's just sorry, I didn't know. It's just funny that's the name of the song.
After Enola Jones, anything could come out of my mouth. So.
No.
So I thought there was some songs that were like matching what are my expectations, and some songs were a bit childish. The ones you sent me the video of about his favorite song, is that the song?
Yeah.
My favorite song.
All my favorite songs. Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer that song not with the video.
That's
so
fair.
I actually quite enjoyed that song better without seeing his face. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm having some problems with person music not matching, but that's just my problem, nobody else's problem.
Yeah. There's a song on it called Bird with a Broken Wing, which I've seen people interpret that as a song about him being like, because it's all about how like back in the day he'd soar high in the sky and do whatever he wanted and it was amazing, and now he's got a broken wing and he can't fly as high anymore, but don't be upset for him because he can still sing his favourite song. And it seems like a bit of a commentary on Weezer not being who they were back in the day, but he still likes that he just gets to sing his song and do what he wants, even if it's not as popular and big as it used to be. And I kind of think there's something moving there. I like that, and I think it is. It kind of dresses itself up in metaphor a bit more than Pinkerton or something like that, but I think it is quite a personal album. And it also has a song in it that's definitely just an advert for Audible, but never mind. Weezer are always going to do their weird thing. But no, okay. Well, I think that's pretty high praise, really, because a lot of Weezer's albums you could listen to and think they were terrible. So I think that's as good as we
I was
could have
surprised. I was pleasantly surprised because after Pinkerton, which I loved, like I love Pinkerton, and I thought I was going to love Weezer. Remember, after then I listened to all the other albums, and I was like, oh no, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed this album. I thought it was good.
Cool.
Yeah, so good recommendation. Thank you very much. And then I listened to the new album by a group called the Staves.
Okay.
Yeah. It seems like we are obsessed with Adam Buxton, but they made a song in for Adam Buxton for his Christmas episode with his friend Joe.
Okay.
And the song was really good, but I thought they weren't like a really big band. I just thought they were just like people that he found that made the song. And then a few days ago on Spotify, they just appeared on my Spotify. They released an album on the 5th of February and called Good Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really, really good album. I really, really enjoyed it. The band is formed by three sisters, so a bit like I'm, and they're English, differently from I'm, and this kind of like a really interesting indie folk kind of album, and it's kind of personal and a little bit emotional, which I enjoyed about that. And then Pitchfork gave it a 6.9, so pretty high. Or is it pretty low for no? For Pitchfork, it's pretty high, isn't it?
It's decent. It's a decent score for Pitchfork.
Okay. Well, then Pitchfork can go away because I feel like it's a really, really good album. They have some really nice harmonizing. There are some like really personal songs, and I think they talk about their mother passed away. One of them just had a baby, and one of them, or I'm not sure which one, broke up with her boyfriend. So it kind of feels like a really personal album, and I really, really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it. And this is another Adam Buxton kind of recommendation, but they're really, really good. And
The Guardian gave it 4 out of 5, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I would give it a good 4 out of 5. I thought 6.9 out of 10 for Pitchfork was, top notch. But yeah, they released other albums that I haven't. I would like to listen to. But Good Woman is a good album.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will definitely listen to that.
Yeah, and this week it was the Super Bowl. After I talked about the fact that I didn't watch the Super Bowl half times. Did you watch The Weeknd at the Super Bowl?
The Weeknd at the Stupid Bowl, I did.
At the Super Bowl, did you?
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
I thought it was good. I like The Weeknd. I like that album. I thought it was a perfectly good performance. The bit where he runs into the stage and is running around in that big hall of mirrors is being gift quite hilariously. And I know, I liked it. What did you think?
I thought it was okay. I felt really bad for him because usually the half time is kind of full of people and there's guests and there's not just, but it was just him by himself singing with like in this massive stadium with not many people around him, and I don't know, it just felt like he was a bit lost at some points. He was just there by himself, The Weeknd, and
I think it was a conscious I think it was a conscious choice of him to have no guests, I think.
Yeah, well, I guess you shouldn't really have any guests, and everybody else that wasn't him had a mask on, which I really liked that everybody had a bandage and a mask on. And I like when he runs into the stadium. I thought that was the best part, and that was like popping, but the rest was a bit, for me, I don't know, I felt a bit like just as a little kid by himself in this massive
maybe
stage.
For me, I really like that. I mean, we've spoken about this before, but I really like that After Hours album he put out last year. But whenever I've tried to go back and listen to any of his older work, I just can't get into it. So like all the old songs he sang, I didn't care about. But like when he sings Blinding Lights, I'm always there for it.
Yeah, and the crowd
That
went
song's
crazy.
great.
It was pretty good. But yeah, I watched it. I thought, oh yeah, I might have to watch it because I've always forget. Not as good as Shakira and J Lo, but acceptable.
No. Yeah.
No.
I'd agree.
Yeah, I finally started watching The Mandalorian, George.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. What do you think of it?
It's so good. It's so good. It's amazing. How good is it?
Yeah.
Like,
I love it.
well, I didn't want to start watching it because I didn't want to be. I feel like since episode 1, 2, 3, I've had real bad trust issues with Star Wars. Although I love 7, 8, and 9, like amazing.
Even 9, really?
I don't know. I haven't seen 9. No, 7 and 8. I haven't seen 9. In fact, I realized the other day watching The Mandalorian that I hadn't seen 9 because I think I just moved to Italy when it came out. So I haven't seen 9. Is it bad?
Can I give you a quick review of 9? Quick review of 9?
No.
I'll give you a quick review of 9.
Yeah, okay.
Is what I'm saying. Okay.
Oh no. Well, I'm going to watch it anyway. So 7 and 8.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. Give it a go. But
yeah, 7 and 8 are really good. They can't be worse than 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, it is. It's my least favorite Star Wars film.
Oh no! Oh god, no! But never mind. So
no, it's not because episode 2 is my least favorite, but it's down there with episode 2. I can't stand it.
So I have to watch that one, or maybe I won't watch it because you said it's bad. But I have this really
definitely watch it. Please watch it. Please watch it.
Okay,
but
fine, I'll watch it. But so I started watching The Mandalorian. Bloody hell, is so good. It's amazing. It's funny like Star Wars should be funny. It's serious like Star Wars is supposed to be serious. It's got the characters, it's got the languages, it's got the shooter. It's just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's just good.
How much have you seen?
I've seen 4 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've only started a few days ago because I'm in isolation. Isolation.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice Alter Bridge reference.
Only 4 episodes. But I'm kind of.
Have you seen?
What?
Have you seen Gina Carano in it yet?
Is that the cool lady? The cool
yeah,
woman.
She's the cool woman.
The coolest woman. Yeah. She appeared in this episode where he arrives on this planet, and he finds these people with that fish stuff.
The fish stuff?
They're not fish, they're like shrimp.
Oh, right, yeah. And the village is being attacked by...
Yeah. The village is being attacked. And, the Mandalorian doesn't take his helmet off.
Yeah. She, Gina Carano, the actress that plays that character, Cara Dune, in terms of talking about pop culture figures that have disappointed us recently, she got fired from season 3 of that this week.
Why?
Well, it's been building up for a while, but the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of her behaviour on social media was that this week she compared the treatment of conservatives in America to the treatment of Jewish people in Nazi Germany.
Why? Like, don't tell me these things. Tell me on episode 3, because I don't follow things like that. Tell me on series 3 that she's been fired for this reason. I'm gonna hate her.
Sorry.
Oh,
it's very disappointing because she's like my favourite character in The Mandalorian.
Like, I love her. I already love
it's
her.
Rubbish.
She's cool. She's just awesome. Like, how on earth would you compare yourself to a Jewish person in Nazi Germany? Like, you are privileged out of this world. You are ridiculous. Never mind.
I mean, we'll be talking about it in a few minutes, but I watched Schindler's List this week, and then the following day she did that, and I was just like, no, that's not the case. Shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like last year she changed it on. People on Twitter will put their chosen pronouns. She on her bio on Twitter she put like beep boop bop or something as like a kind of joke about people having chosen gender pronouns. And she did that like a year ago, and then she's done a few other kind of right-wingish, conservative-y type things on Twitter and social media. And then, this week when she did that, that was kind of like the last straw, which sucks because she's amazing in like her performance in The Mandalorian as Cara Dune is really, really good. Yeah, and it sucks that. But luckily, there are many other things to enjoy about The Mandalorian, so I think we'll be okay. I look forward to hearing more about what you think of it as you go through it. I think you'll really like it as it goes on. It gets better and better, I think. Yeah. And season 2 is fantastic, so yeah, you should stick with it.
Yeah. But one thing that I'm really confused, is this supposed to be... It's before, isn't it? So...
It's set 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
So it's set just after Luke Skywalker has defeated Emperor Palpatine and they've destroyed the Death Stars and stuff like that.
Yeah, I thought that was after, but then I'm confused by the Yoda.
That's not Yoda, Alex.
Okay, fine.
That's a baby of Yoda's species. But it's not Yoda.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Everyone called it Baby Yoda. The term for it that they use in marketing is the child. They just call it the child, but then everyone calls it Baby Yoda because it looks like a Baby Yoda, but it's not actually. It does look like
a Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah, it's very cute.
So cute. It's so cute. He's 50 years old. He's not a child.
Yeah, I know. That bit in episode 1 where he kills the droid and then saves the Baby Yoda is pretty good. Yeah, I love it.
So good.
Yeah.
And then so Mandalorian, really, really good. Carried on watching WandaVision. WandaVision. It's an excellent series. And then I watched a film which was really unexpected actually. My mother. I watched a film with my mother. And she was like, "Oh, I found this lovely comedy with Ian McKellen and Helen Mirren. Do you want to watch it?" It's like, "Yeah, I'll watch a nice romantic comedy." It's like, it's about these two people that like meet online. Like, great, never trust an elderly mother.
Isn't this a thriller?
Yeah, never trust an elderly mother that goes, "Let's watch." Let's watch.
Are you bad? Is this The Good Liar?
Yes.
No, that's not a comedy. I've not seen it, and I know it's not a comedy.
And then at one point, like, so we started watching it, and so it's a film with Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen, and it's not a romantic comedy at all. I'm like, it's a romantic comedy, and then when Ian McKellen gets somebody to like punch somebody else with a meat cleaver, it's like, no, this is definitely not a romantic comedy. It was a surprise. And it's a thriller, not a romantic comedy, about this con artist that tries to con this woman, this kind of like millionaire that he meets online. And it's just a story about, him trying to con, but because it's a thriller, it's full of like plots and twists and turns. Ian McKellen and Helen Mirren are fantastic in it. They're really, really good. But I thought this film was brilliant. I thought it was good. It's got good thriller. It had its little twists and turns. It had a bit of goriness, which I dislike. I realized, and then we'll talk about it later about gore. And that's it for my culture catch up.
Cool.
My culture catch up. Yeah.
Nice.
Short but sweet.
For sure. Cool. All right then. That was Culture Catch Up. Thanks for joining us for Culture Catch Up. Shall we move on to homework?
Yes, please.
Sit down at the back and be quiet and get out your book because it's time to discuss your homework. Now.
George?
Hi.
George.
Hi. Can you hear me?
George.
Can you hear me?
George. Yes, I can.
Oh,
now I can.
God. All right. So, homework.
Yeah. Homework time.
Homework time. So last week was our episode on top 5 movie villains.
Yeah.
I had seen all the movies featuring the villains on your list. So we took one off your honorable mentions list. Herman? Is it Herman? Let me look it up because I don't want to get it wrong.
Eamon Goeth?
Eamon Goeth, yeah. Eamon Goeth.
Eamon
Goeth. The German SS soldier in charge of one of the forced labour camps, Jewish forced labour camps during World War II, featured in the movie Schindler's List. So for the first time ever, sort of, I watched Schindler's List this week. And the reason I say sort of is because in when I was in year 7 or 8 in school, which would have been like, I'd have been 11 or 12 years old, for Holocaust Memorial Week, my school decided that they wanted to show us Schindler's List. Because it's like I think it's a 15 in the UK, or possibly an 18. I think it's a 15. Yeah. They obviously couldn't really show it to us, so they had to get permission from our parents. So it was this big deal. We had to take this letter home. Our parents had to sign it, saying they gave us permission to watch Schindler's List as like a historical document, et cetera, et cetera. And it was this whole big thing. And then ultimately, in the end, I think they showed us about 15 minutes of it after all of that. I think they literally just showed us the liquidation of the ghetto, that sequence, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Which is horrifying, but free of any context. It's just a series of people running around. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything if you watch it without the context of the rest of the movie. It was an exercise in pointlessness that my school did. So that was my only experience with Schindler's List pre that, because for some reason I think for years in my head then I was like, oh, I've seen Schindler's List, I don't need to watch it. But when I thought about it as an adult, I'm like, no, I haven't. I've not at all. So it was good to finally sit down and watch Schindler's List, because it is, of course, a masterpiece, and also more than a film. It's more important than any other film, really. It documents in quite horrible detail the most awful because humans are terrible to each other all the time, but one of the most horrific events in living human history, certainly. The genocide of the Jewish people by the Nazis during World War II. Through the lens of this guy, Oskar Schindler, who was an industrialist who basically at the start was just an opportunist who realised that he could pay Jewish people much less than Polish people to work in his factory. So he got a load of them working in his factory, and then when they all got shipped off to labour camps, he opened a factory in one of the labour camps, and that's where Eamon Goff comes in, who was running that camp, and is just this horrible, despicable, disgusting creature, played amazingly by Ralph Fiennes, who put on a load of weight to do it, and struts around with his belly sticking out like this. He's got no vanity in this role at all. Like he just seems like a deplorable, disgusting, nasty piece of work before you've ever even seen him do anything awful. It just radiates off Ralph Fiennes, which is, an amazing performance. And then there's the sequences of him just sat up on the balcony of this villa he lives in, shooting people with a rifle, and then doing all, like, he is definitely one of cinema's most unpleasant villains and characters, and partly because it was a real person. He really existed. Yeah, and that's horrible to think about. Apparently, one of the survivors of the Holocaust, who's depicted in the movie, one of the Jews that's saved by Oskar Schindler, went to set and met Ralph Fiennes in his get-up as Eamon Goff, and she started shaking uncontrollably because he was so reminiscent of the real man. So accurate was his portrayal. So it's quite amazing to see. I don't know if enjoy is the right film. I mean, I sat down on a Monday evening and put it on, and it's 3 hours and 15 minutes long, and it just completely broke me. And it was interesting to look up at the afterwards and look up what people think about it and what the reviews are like, because obviously predominantly people adore it, but a few people have criticised it at various points. And one of the weird pieces of criticism I read about it was that somebody said that there's a scene at the end where Oskar Schindler, played by Liam Neeson, after his, spoilers, but I'm not interested. Like, you're not watching it for the story. You're watching it to kind of understand the event. Absolutely. If you see what I mean. So there's a scene at the end where the the Germany has declared surrender, and he kind of gives a big speech in his factory that they're all free and that he has to flee because essentially he's a war profiteer. He's profited off slave labor and all of these things, so he's going to have to flee. But obviously, they all know that by that point in the movie, his character has changed and he's saved them. And he's intentionally made it certain that his ammunition factory has produced no usable ammunition for like the last 18 months of the war or whatever. And he goes out to flee, and there's a scene on a train line, and he's about to get into his car, and they give him this letter that they've written, and they're all gathered around him, all these people that he's saved. They give him this letter that they've written about what he's done, and they've all signed it. And then they give him this ring they've had made, and they've had this line from the Talmud inscribed on it that says, I think it says, to save one life is to save the world entire. I think that's what it says. And obviously that's really moving. And then he breaks down and starts crying and sobbing and saying, he could have saved more people. He only saved, 1,100 or whatever. He could have saved more. He could have done more. He should have done more. And he's just sobbing, and they're trying to console him. And that was the point in the movie. Like, I'd been upset for that entire film. Like, I had physical reactions to some scenes early on where I was just shouting at my TV and swearing because it was just so awful to see. But that was the point where I broke down and I started crying along because it was just so. It's this point in the movie where everything you've witnessed so far, it's almost like the movie gives you permission to have an emotional response, if you see what I mean. And I read a review that criticised that scene for being too maudlin, and I was like, you missed the point of the entire thing. God. If that's what you think, if you come out of that movie thinking it was unnecessary to show Oscar Schindler breaking down at the end, then you missed the point of everything that film is trying to do, and you should resign as a film critic. I don't remember who said that, but I just couldn't believe that. And then there's a bit right at the very end where because the whole film's in black and white. There's a bit at the end where it goes back into colour, and it shows the real people alongside the actors that played them in the film going to the grave of the real Oscar Schindler and laying stones on his grave, which is a Jewish tradition. And the text on the screen explains that there's back in 1993 when the movie was made, I don't remember the exact numbers, but there's something like less than 4,000 Jewish people still in Poland as survivors of the Holocaust, but there are like 6,000 descendants of the Schindler Jews that he rescued, if you see what I mean. I don't remember if those are the exact numbers, but it's kind of saying, he did so much more than he realised. And obviously it seems so insignificant in comparison to the 6 million that were murdered. But I think that phrase they have written on that ring is a really important part of the film to show that, even though it seems so insignificant, it's so important to show that people can change the world by, doing what they think is right at the time and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a brilliant movie. It really, really moved me. It feels silly to talk about it as a film. It's more than a film. Steven Spielberg has never accepted any money for making it. He's always had all the funds forwarded to the Shoah Foundation, who deal in genocide, helping people who've experienced genocide and things. And Ralph Fiennes' performance, I think it was nominated for an Oscar, rightfully so. It sticks in your mind as a particularly unpleasant person, and it makes those sequences in the prison camp work because you have someone you can kind of center your anger on, and it's him. And it's a great film. So thank you for making me finally watch it.
He's amazing in it, and he just, I don't know. You could do it over the top, but he didn't. He was just despicable. Just to look at him,
just quietly unpleasant, like a spoiled fat boy. Yeah.
And just I don't know, and just in thinking they was a real person, and being in that position of thinking that you are superior than someone and do what you're doing to that person. You have no soul, you have no empathy, no nothing. You're just it's utter and he did it really well. I don't think it's an easy job to portray such a horrible person.
No.
And he did it amazingly, and I don't know how he felt about it, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing performance. I think it helped his career a lot.
Yeah.
Having done that movie and given that performance.
But I'm glad you watched it, and I'm glad you experienced it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what happened when you tried to watch Friday the 13th
so
Part
you
4?
told me to watch Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, it first of all, it was I don't know why it was such an ordeal to find it. And I could not find it for the love. It was just everywhere. There was chapter 9, and I thought I was supposed to watch the final chapter, and that was chapter 4. There was chapter 1. There was everything, but not that. And then I found it somewhere that would not play on a device I bought it on. Oh, it was an audio. So already then I was just like, ah. But then, so you made me watch Friday the 13th. The final 4, part 4, the final chapter, which is not the final chapter. It's upsetting. That's already upsetting. And it's about Jason coming back from the dead.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And so when I texted you, just to kind of, I watched the first 10 minutes, and it was just, maybe it was 5, and it was gore after cutting, after thing, after this.
Well,
and I was like, I cannot, wait a second, let me finish. I'm setting the scene, George.
Okay.
So it was, and I realized at that point that maybe it's not I don't like horror films. I really don't like gore. There is something about a knife to naked skin that makes me really sick. There's something about a knife to a neck that I just can't deal with it. Penetration of things, blood, brain. I just can't. It just makes me really.
It's interesting because you watch zombie movies, right? And they can be really gory.
But I don't know why these are different. Slasher films are different. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe because in my head zombies are not real. So it's just definitely not a real thing. But somebody coming to your house and slashing you I don't know what it is. But I was just, and then I texted you and I was like, George, do I have to watch an hour and a half of this? Because I already feel physically sick. Because I did feel physically sick. I was just like, oh.
But the thing, because it almost opens with a previously on thing, doesn't it? Where it's like, this is everything that's happened so far.
Yeah, but they showed every single gory thing that's happened in the previous 4 films for 5 minutes. I was like, whoa, stop. No, I don't want to see this. And then I texted you and you were like, well, you made me watch 3 hours of Schindler's List. It's like, yeah, but I feel physically not good about this.
But haven't you seen, not to defend it at all, because if you didn't like it, you didn't like it and all that, but I mean, you've also watched Scream, right? Like, it's not your first experience with a slasher movie.
No, but I don't know. I'm old. I don't know. I don't know. No, it's not the first experience of a slasher movie, but I don't really watch slasher movies. And I watched Scream when I was 14 or something. So that was like a good 20 years ago. So I haven't watched... Well, I watched The Chainsaw Massacre, which is definitely less gory.
Well, there's actually nothing on screen in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't mind that. But yeah, so the first 5 minutes for me was distressing. And I sent you a distress call. And you were like, Alex, meh. I was like, fine. So I carried on watching.
I did then text you again, just so everyone knows, and say that it was okay if you wanted to stop watching it. Don't paint me as like some kind of person.
Joss Whedon.
Yeah. Don't paint.
No, you did text me and say you don't have to watch it all if you don't feel like it. But I did decide. Then I was like, I'm just gonna go with the flow and see what happens. And the first 5 minutes are, I think it was the gore that really kind of, I don't know. But then
yeah,
after a
I
while,
understand that.
after a while, it's kind of like more kind of like no gore, gore, no gore, 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 no gore. You know, it's just kind of like more
Yeah, it spreads it out.
spread. Yeah, it spreads it out. So Jason comes back. I think he kills a group of kids at the beginning. So the kid, what I didn't understand, the guy that was talking at the beginning, with a group of kids, does Jason go there and kill him?
No, I think that they're just
okay,
totally
fine.
unconnected to anything. I don't think they've got anything to do with anything.
Okay, because that really confused me. I was like, did they kill
Yeah.
Jason? Who killed Jason? What? I don't understand. But yeah, so Jason
Oh,
apparently
because he's in the
dead.
morgue. Yeah.
Yeah, they take him to the morgue, and then the beauty about this film is just apart from the family that lives in the cabin in the woods, everybody's pretty hateful, so you don't really care if they're gonna die.
Yeah, no, that's what. Yeah.
Yeah. So like they're in the morgue, and the guy in the morgue is an absolute douche, ass back. It's just terrible guy, and he's eating this sandwich and then putting the sandwich on top of the corpse. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then Jason comes back and he kills everybody in the morgue. That's pretty exciting. It was just, for me, it was just a gore that was like, ugh, no, please,
Yeah,
no.
that's fair.
It's just like, oh no. But then, yeah, you have the group of kids that drive in the car. Most of them pretty hateful. So you go, yeah, I don't mind if you all die, but please don't show me you dying.
But notably,
Yeah.
and the reason that I told you to watch this one of them is played by Crispin Glover.
Who?
Crispin Glover played. Have you seen Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays George McFly. He plays Marty's dad in the first Back to the Future movie.
What's his name?
Crispin Glover.
Kristen.
Crispin,
like
Crispin.
Crispies.
Crispin. Yes.
Crispin
Glover.
Yeah. Yes. I was like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has
then
there's
also
a
there's the
dance
kid
scene with him
from-
in this movie that's great.
Yeah, and then there's also the kid from Stand By Me.
Yeah, Corey Feldman,
Yeah, who's
Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah. So well, I wrote some notes actually.
Okay. I watched it this week, by the way, just so you know, I rewatched it.
Like oh, where are my notes? Yeah. So I put gory, bloody, cutty. Gory, bloody, cutty. I definitely don't like gore. I don't know. I don't like it. The acting in these things are always kind of like not really great, is it?
No, because back in the 80s when they were making these movies, they were casting young people more for what
Yeah.
they looked like than their ability to act. Except for Crispin Glover.
Yeah. But yeah, so he kills during the day, which is interesting.
Yeah,
Not many serial killers kill during the day. And does he just kill for the sake of killing? Like he doesn't
Yeah, I mean,
doesn't really
it's his lake and his summer camps area, and if anyone else goes to it, he'll kill them.
Do you think I should have watched the first one to understand a little bit better?
No, you're not like genuinely, you're not missing any. Like, there's no.
Okay. Yeah, but as a horror, I thought it was it was good. It did what it had to do. It slashed. There were tits. There were sexual. There were like loose girls.
Yeah.
They were like
There's a
horny
great bit
boys.
where someone gets thrown out of a window and lands on a car. That stunt is great.
Yes. The way he kills people is pretty, yeah. There's a lot of gore, but there's a lot of times where you go, just go away, lock yourself somewhere, like
just running
when
around
they're
in circles, screaming.
Oh my god! When they're in the bedroom and they put this like flimsy wardrobe in front of the door, like put the entire room in front of the door. It just puts a like piece of cardboard, and then she throws a computer at him, and he's not dead. And then she tries to pass him, kill him, just throw everything you can possibly do. Instead, she goes, "Oh, I'm gonna go around," and then yeah. And then the kid is pretty intense.
There's a very weird
Is it-
scene where the kid is in his bed because Corey Feldman's like what 9 or something in this movie. He's pretty young.
Yeah.
He's in his bed, and through his window, he can see two teenagers making out. And the way he responds is by like yelping and jumping around on his bed.
Yeah.
It's such an odd moment. I
It's
love that one. I love that Friday the 13th movie in particular because it's full of weird, strange choices. Like, why does that
Yeah.
horrible guy find that like Victorian era porn movie? It just doesn't make sense. It's so bizarre.
No. And also like the fact that, there's a couple and this girl goes, well, I'm gonna sleep with this guy, and he goes, okay. It's just weird. It's just full of weird stuff, and it's so random. And then he arrives and then tries to kill everybody. And then where's the mother? Where did the mother disappear?
There's a whole. I mean, I don't remember the ins and outs of it, but there's a whole load of deleted stuff to do with the mother, and like them finding her body in a bath, I think, and it being a dream sequence. There's like they cut a bunch of stuff out of the film basically, which is why she just vanishes from the movie, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird.
It's
Bad
very
editing.
Weird. Yeah, and and also there's I really one thing that really I don't like in horror films is when there's the shower scene.
I
feel like when you're naked and having a shower, you're the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And when that happens, I was like, no, I don't want to see this guy just getting like stabbed in the shower. But then he doesn't really get stabbed. He just gets like, I don't know, teared. He just goes bomb. He's such an unlikely serial killer, isn't he? He's just like this big gorilla going around going, "Ugh," and just killing everybody as he pleases. But then I don't know. Yeah, and then he's everywhere. He's very agile, this Jason guy, isn't he?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thing because like it's almost like he can teleport around in a way. Like, is he supernatural or not? The reboot that they did in like I think 2009, they did a remake that sort of does the story of 1, 2, and 3 all in one movie, which kind of tells you how little story there is in these films that they were able to condense 3 movies to one movie when they did a reboot. But that movie kind of makes out that he's dug loads of tunnels all over the camp.
Okay.
And that he goes underground and that's a level of explanation that's not needed. He's just able to pop up. Like eventually he gets actually murdered. He rises up. There's one movie where like all his overalls are torn and you can see his skeleton underneath and stuff. He basically becomes a zombie at one point. And then he takes Manhattan and then he fights Freddy. It's good stuff. And then he goes to space. Jason X is set in the future in space. He kills someone by dunking their head into like a big pool of liquid nitrogen and smashing it. It's pretty good stuff.
Oh my God. Sounds amazing, George. But yeah, no, it was enjoyable. It wasn't enjoyable actually. It was okay.
Was it but it must have been
like
interesting
I would have liked to watch it with you. I think I would have enjoyed it more if I watched it with you, but instead
possibly, yeah. But
I watched
are you
it by myself.
glad you've seen a movie with Jason in because he's such a kind of iconic pop culture
I think
thing?
so. Yeah. I'm glad I watched a Friday the 13th because it's one of those films that I would never watch ever.
Yeah.
Don't do it again, please.
No, I'll be careful. I mean, I'm not good this week. There's no chance of that happening.
No. But I don't know. I just something about people cutting other people. Like when you were talking about the human centipede last week, I was just like, oh, I don't know.
Oh, I mean, do never ever watch that. You would not.
No,
you would not like that
like,
movie.
No, I can't. I just no.
There's a whole world of like French extreme cinema that's cut off for you. That's so good. It's sad.
This is not sad.
It is sad. You'll never get to enjoy Martyrs. You'll definitely never watch Martyrs. That movie's horrible. Martyrs is it's a French. It's like a 5-star masterpiece horror film, but it's the most difficult time I've ever had sitting for a film. Is Martyrs.
But yeah, I'm glad I watched it. Not a fan of gore, but yeah, it was interesting. The choices that people made in that film were all wrong. Like,
oh yeah, but that's part of the fun. But yeah,
you meet a hitchhiker and then you go, if you don't want to stay outside, you can come and sleep in the house. The door is always open.
Oh, that guy.
Says
Yeah,
that
that's
to a
weird.
complete stranger.
yeah, yeah, but he's a handsome hunk.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah. No, because there's an
But yeah.
earlier hitchhiker who's not a handsome hunk. She's like a lady that's the movie says isn't attractive, and they just shout obscenities
That's the
at
other
her.
thing. That was just like,
That's that's pretty horrible, that bit. I don't like that, the way they treat that character. She's only in it for a second, but it's pretty gross.
yeah. But yeah, thank you for making me watch a Friday the 13th chapter 4, the final chapter, not the final chapter.
Yeah, not the final chapter, but my
And
favorite.
then does something happen with the kid because he looks at the camera and he looks all evil? Is he the reincarnation or something?
No, there's a whole the next movie is called Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, I think. And it's set when suddenly he's an adult. And that movie wants to make you think that he's become Jason, and then that's not the story. They kind of they set him up as a really interesting character that could have gone forward into other movies, but then Corey Feldman became such a huge child star that there was no way they could afford to have him in a movie again. So he does a little cameo at the start of Part 5, and then suddenly his character is an adult who has to go and live in a kind of weird mental health hospital in the middle of the woods. It's not a very Part 5 is awful. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But yeah,
because Part 4 was a masterpiece.
I like Part 4 quite a lot. It's got a lot of weird and fun 80s nonsense in it. It's my favorite of the early films. But yeah.
Okay.
Should we get into our top 5?
Yeah, let's get into our top 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Our top 5.
Well, this week we're doing top 5 Walt Disney Animation Studios movies.
Yes.
So they generally number them. There's a list of them on the internet. There's about 60 of them in total, I think. They've done a lot since the 40s. They started with Snow White. Now, we've already done top 5 animated movies in the past, and we both have listed some films that are Walt Disney films in that list. Now, mine was Mulan, and just before I do my list, it goes without saying that sort of Mulan is up there with all of these films I'm going to talk about today, but I've left it off my list today to give other films room to breathe. How have you approached it, Alex?
You know how I approached it.
Well, I don't know what final decision you made.
With panic, texting, and
I don't know why you were panicking so much. I don't know why you panicked so much about it.
How long have you known me for?
So you've left off what did
you
have?
Alex. Yeah, it's all Alex comes with oh Alex, oh yeah, you know that cool, collected, kind of calm kind of lady.
So
if you thought that,
then it's fair to say that Moana. What films did you have on the first list we did? Moana,
Hercules, Robin Hood, and Hercules.
Yeah,
are not on this list because they're already up there.
But say they're already up there with the films you're going to talk about today, yeah?
Yes.
Cool. I had a great time putting this list together this week.
Did you?
I really enjoyed it. I watched a couple of movies,
Ooh.
kind of in anticipation of it and stuff, and that kind of altered my ordering a bit and things. And it was just I enjoyed kind of living in Disney for a week. How did you find it? It's stressful, it seems.
No. Totally fine. Calm as a cucumber.
Calm as a cucumber.
Cool as a lava pop.
That's how it should be, because this is all for fun.
No. I enjoyed it because I revisited some films. Didn't watch them all, but I watched kind of parts of it, and and it was good.
Nice.
It was good, yeah.
And I've got I've got a game for you that we'll do later. I've got a quiz.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, exciting. But we'll start with my number 5 pick, which is one of my favourites from when I was a young boy. One of the older Disney films. It is The Jungle Book.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like.
Do you? Is it on your list?
No.
Interesting. But you've seen it?
Of course.
Yeah. It's
I even liked the film. I thought the film was pretty good as well.
Oh, the live action one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually quite liked that.
Yeah.
I thought they did a
I thought that was
good job.
good.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
as good as the original. 1967, the original one came out.
Yes.
I think it might have been one of the last. Yeah, it was the last one that Walt Disney produced himself. He died while it was being made.
Oh.
Yeah. Follows the story of Mowgli, a child who's been raised in the jungle by wolves, and he teams up with Bagheera, who is a panther, and Baloo the bear, to try and rescue him from Shere Khan, who's afraid of men and is determined to kill the man cub. And it's just a great Disney film. It's got brilliant songs. I mean, I Want to Be Like You, Ooh, 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 is one of the all-time best Disney songs ever by King Louis. It's got great action. It's got a genuinely pretty scary villain in Shere Khan, who's fantastic. The scene at the end where he's chasing Mowgli and everything's on fire, genuinely scary. And it's funny. Like, Baloo is a very funny character. The Bare Necessities song is good. The scene with Kaa, there's a snake that kind of hypnotizes Mowgli. It's just, it's a great film. It's a really good film. It's one of those classic Disney movies that's enjoyable for its relatively short runtime of 78 minutes. And I really love it. I love The Jungle Book.
Yeah, no, it's good. Good choice.
Yeah, and colourful as well. It's really colourful. It's really colourful.
Yeah. And fun. It's just really fun. Yeah. Good choice.
Thank you. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is more recent than yours and is 1989. The Little Mermaid.
The little tiny Little Mermaid.
Weenie Miny Little Mermaid.
Yes.
The Little Mermaid was made in 1989. It's the story about Ariel, who is is a mermaid princess, who falls in love with a guy. Well, she wants to kind of live out of the water. She's got this fun friend who is a seagull called Scuttle that tells her kind of some weird stories about the human world. One of my favorite scenes is when she gets this fork. She tries to
I think it's a comb, doesn't she?
brush her hair, comb her hair with this fork. And but her dad is really protective and doesn't really want her to go near the water. One day she rescues this beautiful Prince Eric, and she sings to him, and he falls in love with her. She falls in love with him. But Triton, the dad, is his name King Triton, is not very happy about it, and tells her that she can't go near the surface. But then Ursula, this evil lady, I used to be terrified of her, but also quite fascinating because she's quite charming, isn't she? She's like this charming, sexy villain, I feel. Ursula.
Yeah, she's a strong villain.
Yeah, she says to Ariel that she can have legs and go and live with Eric, but she has to give her voice. But and so she does that, and but Eric doesn't recognize Ariel because you only recognize her by the voice, which is ridiculous. But Disney films, and but then Ursula turns up with Ariel's voice. Bam bam. That's a good episode of The Young and the Restless.
Okay.
Eric falls in love with Ursula, but then etc. Then they live happily ever after. But I love The Little Mermaid. That was my favorite cartoon for the longest time. My parents probably hated me. When you watch a cartoon, probably 100 times, and your parents go, "You want to watch The Little Mermaid again?"
Are you sure you want to watch The Little Mermaid again?
Are you
You've
sure?
seen it
There's
before.
you've got The Lion King, you've got something else. But no, I loved it, and I think the songs are great. Under the Sea is like Disney classic, beautiful. And kiss the girl when they're trying to get Eric to kiss the girl. I forgot to say that Eric has to kiss her in order for her to get her voice back, fall in love with her.
Yeah.
Doesn't
It's
matter.
your classic.
Nothing
It's your
matters.
classic curse that's broken by
It's
true
a
love's
classic, maybe not correct. Maybe you should not rely on a man or something. But I loved that cartoon, and I still love it. Love it. And it's a
Yeah.
classic, and kids still know about the Little Mermaid, and they
Oh,
still
yeah,
know
it's still
Under
a
the
big one.
Sea.
I've only seen it once, I think, but it is good.
And when I went to Tokyo Disney for the first time, there is the Little Mermaid area, and I was in tears. I was just like, oh my god, this is so beautiful. It's a beautiful place to be. Yeah.
Nice.
Number 5, Little Mermaid.
I like it. Good pick.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Don't say you've seen it once. Have you seen it? You've probably seen all of mine. We've probably seen each other's.
Not necessarily. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay.
Yeah, my number 4 pick is a pretty recent Disney movie from only a handful of years ago. Let me see when it came out here. 2018's. Yep. It's 2018's Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph. Have you seen Ralph Breaks the Internet?
I have not seen either.
You haven't seen Wreck-It Ralph?
No.
Oh, okay.
I've not seen Wreck-It Ralph.
So Wreck-It Ralph is a film that came out, I think, 2011 maybe. It's set in a video game arcade. The main character is a bad guy in an old game called Fix It Felix Jr. and it's kind of a Mario parody, and Wreck-It Ralph is sort of meant to be Donkey Kong. And he discovers one day that he doesn't necessarily have to be the bad guy. And I've only watched that film once actually, but he ultimately ends up becoming friends with a character called Vanellope, who's that film's version of a Disney princess, and she's like a kind of racer in a Mario Kart type game, if you see what I mean. Yeah? So the sequel, set 6 years later, Ralph and Vanellope have settled into a relatively normal life of being in their games during the day and then hanging out in the evening and being best friends. And one day, they think a new game is about to be plugged into the... it's quite good. They all hang out in the evening in like the inside of an extension cable, as if they've all gone through the wires of their machines into like the plugs, if you see what I mean. And they think a new game is about to be plugged in. And in fact, it is a Wi-Fi router being plugged in. And due to some misadventures, Ralph causes the steering wheel on Vanellope's game to be broken in the real world. And the owner of the arcade is going to turn the game off because it's too expensive to get a new steering wheel for it. So they hear him talking about how you can buy one on eBay, but it costs too much money. So they decide to go into the internet and go to eBay to get the steering wheel. And therein hilarity ensues. And it's one of those movies that is full of references to other things, because they go into the internet and immediately there's like a skyscraper that's the Google skyscraper, and there's a forest full of trees with little birds tweeting all over it, little blue birds, and stuff like this. And eBay is presented as this just giant auction hall with thousands of people being like, any bids? Can you get a bid? Can I get a bid on this? And the things they show being sold are really funny. And yeah, it's ultimately what I love about Ralph Breaks the Internet, and what makes me think it's better than Wreck-It Ralph, is it's a film that's about friendship, and it's about best friends, and it's about when you come to terms with the fact that you and your best friend maybe don't have the same exact interests and ambitions, but it doesn't mean you can't still be best friends, if you see what I mean. And it kind of is all about testing friendship and looking at stuff like that. And I kind of really like that kind of journey. It's not about romance or anything like that. It's about something more simple and lovely. And it's really funny. Gal Gadot is in it. They go into like this... they go into this online racing game that's like a kind of parody of Grand Theft Auto. And she plays a character called Shank, who's basically... It's like she's playing the character she plays in the Fast and the Furious movies. And she sort of takes Vanellope under her wing a bit, and that's really good. What else do I like in it? Oh, there's an amazing sequence where, for story-related reasons, Vanellope ends up in a Disney fan website type place, and she goes into a room where all of the Disney princesses are in this room, like all of them, like Mulan, Ariel, like every Disney princess is in there. All of them voiced by the same voice actresses that voiced them originally. In the cases where they're alive, if you see what I mean. Obviously, like Snow White's voice actress isn't around anymore and stuff, but all the more recent Disney princesses are voiced by the voice actress that voiced them originally. And there's some really funny stuff, like you just said there. There's some funny stuff about her, like. They're trying to work out if Penelope's a princess as well, and they're like, "Did everyone think that a man had to come and solve your problems for you?" Like jokes like that and stuff. And it's pretty. The stuff with the Disney princesses is brilliant. It's very fan servicey, but I really, really like it. I think it's really funny, and there's a bit. They're all dressed in like their gowns and stuff that you'd normally expect to see them dressed in, and then Vanellope, because she's a gamer character, she's just wears a hoodie, and they all decide to get clothes like her, and then just seeing they all wear T-shirts with different things written on them that are references to their movies, and that's really funny. It's great. It's really good. Ralph Breaks the Internet. I think it's one of the less seen. I mean, they're all big movies, obviously, because they're Disney films. Other than another one on my list, which is like the most unseen Disney film, I think. But like this film, I feel like you said, you haven't seen either of them. They are overshadowed a bit by the Frozens and the Moanas that have come out around the same time. And I would say to give it a chance. I think it's wonderful. I really like it. Yeah. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is another one that I've seen like 150,000 times and I still love. And it's like a really short one, and nothing really happens because I watched it recently as well, and it's just kind of, I didn't realize how unintricate the story is. It's like really like this happens, end.
Right.
And it's the 90. I need to find the date. Where are you? Oh yeah, the 1963, The Sword in the Stone.
Okay.
Yeah. This is like my total nostalgia pick. But I still, although like watching as an adult, I was like, this film is just like a lot of stuff happens and you don't really know why. But I really loved it, and it just brought some really good memories to it. And I love kind of like the King Arthur and the legend of it, and you know, coming to England, we always used to go to kind of Glastonbury, and my mum used to talk about King Arthur and Merlin and all these things, and I don't know, I just loved it, and I really like this cartoon. And what is The Sword in the Stone, which is about what's his name, Uther Pendragon dies, and he hasn't got any descendants, is that what it is? No heir to the throne. He puts he puts the sword appears in a stone, and whoever takes the stone out becomes king. And it's not really accurate to the legend, this, but I really liked it, and I just thought it was really like magical and interesting. And when, I don't know, my favorite scenes are when they when Merlin and Arthur transform themselves into other animals. I always loved those scenes as a kid, and even now I'm like, oh, that's so nice. And I don't know what the name is. We call him Magamago, and I'm trying to find the name in English. Madam Mim. I always loved Madam Mim, and there's a scene where she puts her hair in front of her face, and then she opens it, and she's a pig. I don't know, it's something that me and my sister used to do all the time, just to kind of like put all her hair in front of her face, and just like, I don't know, it's got such good memories, this film. And it's random, but I think it's a good film for kids because I think it's so random, and it's so like the scenes are so short that it kind of keeps your attention as a kid. I think that's what's really well done. And it's there are no songs, I don't think, in it. I can't remember. No, nothing. But yeah,
there's only one song in Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Is there?
Yeah, sometimes it's weird, isn't it? It feels like they should all be musicals, but
yeah. But no, it's good. I like it, and it ticked the boxes for me for like King Arthur and what I should know about it at the time. And then it's good. It's good stuff. The
Yeah.
Sword in the Stone. What's your number
Sword
3?
in the Stone. So my number 3 is again, it's a recent one, but it doesn't feel like a recent one. It's kind of like a nostalgia pick because it sort of takes something from my childhood and makes like the kind of ultimate perfect version of it, if you see what I mean. And it is, I think, one of the most unsuccessful Disney movies ever released. Like, this is a proper Walt Disney Studios movie, yet I think when it came out, it went to number 6 in the charts in America at the box office and made some
Wow.
tiny amount of money, like $7 million. When you think about Moana and Frozen and stuff like that, it's so... it's forgotten and unseen, and I think it should be because I think it's a wonderful masterpiece. It is 2011's Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, okay.
I just adore the hell out of Winnie the Pooh and his various little mates. I used to love Winnie the Pooh when I was growing up. Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day was one of my favourite cartoons. And I just love him. I love his voice. He likes honey. He's a bear with very little brain. I just love all the little turns of phrase that you have in Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Make me laugh. The way they get words wrong. And I just love Winnie the Pooh. And this movie is just like they decided they just wanted to make the ultimate true to the original story's version of a Winnie the Pooh movie. Because it's barely an hour long. Like the credits are rolling before you hit the hour mark. It opens with a camera going for a live-action bedroom as John Cleese narrates. John Cleese is the narrator in this movie. Kind of narrates that this is Christopher Robin's bedroom, and here are all his stuffed animals that he likes to play with. And then it kind of transitions into Winnie the Pooh, and it has all these points where you see like the scene, but then you can see the book and the words around the scene you're looking at. As John Cleese kind of reads out what's on the page, and then the characters at different points kind of interact with the actual pages in the book and things, which is really cool. And it's just a story about he wakes up one morning, he's run out of honey, he goes out to find some honey, and he finds Eeyore, whose tail has gone missing, and they have to find Eeyore's tail. And that's the plot of the film, is that Eeyore's lost his tail. Aww. Where is Eeyore's tail? We need to find it. And they get sidetracked by various things, including a point where Christopher Robin has to leave for a bit. He writes him a note saying he'll be back soon. Winnie the Pooh finds this note and doesn't understand it, so he takes it to Owl, the wise owl, to explain it. Owl misreads it and thinks that it's a ransom note because Christopher Robin's been kidnapped by a monster called a Buxton. And then they sing this song about what the Buxton might be like. It's just glorious. It's so good and funny. He's got it's great. Have you seen it?
No,
I didn't. Seen it.
I found out today that it was a Disney film. I didn't realize that they made that.
Yeah. They made there's one from like there's a much older Winnie the Pooh movie called like I can't remember what it's called now, but it's sort of a collection of stories, and that's a Disney movie as well. But something about this more recent one, the animation is crisp and clean, but true to the original animation, and it's just great. It's just great. It's the kind of movie you wouldn't necessarily expect to come out now. Like for 2011, like it says here, as of 2021, it's Disney's most recent traditionally animated theatrical film. Like since this movie, they've been making CGI movies, and Ralph Bakes Internet is one of them, and I love it, as Moana and Frozen, and they're good at that. But there's something about this movie that is a bit of a throwback and is glorious and wonderful. So yeah, Winnie the Pooh. No one has seen it. Awesome. If you've got Disney Plus, go and watch it. It's great.
Yeah, I definitely want to watch it. Definitely, I love Winnie the Pooh.
Who doesn't? Okay. What's your number 3?
Cool. My number 3 is 2002 Lilo and Stitch.
Okay, before you start, I haven't seen this film.
No, you haven't?
Nope.
Oh. So Lilo and Stitch is it involves like two main characters, which are 6-year-old Hawaiian girl Lilo, and who is being raised by her older sister because their parents have died. So that's already kind of like pretty, heart clenching.
Yeah.
And this extraterrestrial kind of creature called at the end. Well, his name is Experiment 626, but
Nice.
But then he's adopted by Lilo. who then has a dog, and she calls him Stitch. And Stitch is an extraterrestrial being, and he's been engineered by this mad scientist because they want to cause. He wants to cause this chaos and destruction, but then he escapes. And then he meets this girl, Lilo, who also creates chaos and destruction. And she's not very ladylike, and she doesn't really fit in, and nobody really likes her. And it's just a story about two oddballs that get together and, you know, become friends, and they love each other, and it's lovely. There's music by Elvis Presley, which I love. Yeah, it's amazing. I wasn't really a fan of Elvis Presley before this film. And
No, I'm not a fan of Elvis Presley now, so that's
yeah,
fine.
but if you watch it, it's really cute. It's really, really cute. And
Okay.
it's lovely. I love Lilo and Stitch, and it's just a nice story of friendship. And it's quite adulty. So I watched it when I was 17 because I watched it at the cinema. And I liked it because it kind of, I don't know, it just kind of, it wasn't as childish as other films may be. It's a bit childish, but also not, because it kind of shows like adult themes, and I love the music. Yeah, it's good. Lilo and Stitch.
Nice, cool, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I've never watched it. I think when did it come out?
2002.
So I'd have been 14. It's probably definitely a point where I was a bit like, I don't want to watch a new Disney movie, and then I just never went back to it when I got a bit more mature. If you see what I mean.
Yeah. I think this was the time that I went kind of back, and then I left again, and when I started liking cartoons again. Yeah. You're right. But yeah, it is good. I like it.
Nice. Good. Okay.
Good.
So my number 2.
Yeah.
My number 2 is probably the most popular Disney movie on my list, and it's my favourite of the movies that were released when I was a child. It is 1992's Aladdin. Yeah. I think most of us have seen Aladdin. It's one of the big ones. It's it's about a street boy called Aladdin. He falls in love with Princess Jasmine. How does he get a princess to fall in love back? Well, mainly by going and finding a genie, voiced by Robin Williams, to do a load of impressions of different celebrities of the 1990s, and give him 3 wishes to allow him to become a prince, Prince Ali. And it's great. It's got good songs. It's got good songs. It's got such good songs. It's got one of the all-time great voice performances in a Disney movie from Robin Williams, of course, who is just about as perfect as you can be in this movie. And it's got a really good villain. Jafar is a great villain. And Gilbert Gottfried, along with Robin Williams, Gilbert Gottfried as Iago the parrot is also very funny in that movie. And Jafar is kind of intimidating and scary and terrifying. And it's just a great film. I loved it when I was a kid. I love the way it opens with the guy telling the story at the market stall, and then it kind of transitions into the film itself, and it's just full of just wonderful songs. The animation is great. The scene in the Cave of Wonders, or whatever it's called, and when they're escaping on the flying carpet, and all the treasures collapsing around them, and the lava's coming up. It's really exciting. It's such a well-made action kind of sequence in an animated movie. So yeah, I love Aladdin. I love all the characters in it. I love the songs, the music, the comedy. It's kind of your perfect package of stuff. It's great. Yeah. What do you think about Aladdin?
I wasn't a fan, mainly because I found really because I found the scene with Jafar, when he gets really big, like terrifying.
Oh right, yeah.
Like, and I just because that's another film I watched about, I don't know how many times, but it just I was always like really anxious about seeing that scene, so I kind of would watch the beginning.
He's quite scary when he turns into a genie and he's enormous.
It's terrifying. Yeah. It's terrifying. And I don't know. I was a bit, for me, it was a bit too edgy, even at the time. For me, that was a bit too...
I love that you're describing Aladdin as too edgy. Aladdin.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
but I thought that scene was terrifying. I thought Jafar was terrifying.
Jafar is yeah,
I did
yeah,
not-
yeah, yeah.
Like, I was actually scared of him, and so for me, Aladdin was always like a bit of a. I didn't have the cassette. My cousin did, so every time we went to his house, we would watch the cassette. And so yeah, but yeah, we didn't have.
Cool.
It
So
just reminded me a bit of Fantasia. You know, Fantasia is kind of scary towards the end.
yeah, with Chernabog,
And I always
think
would
it
find
is.
that like scene terrifying, and I associated Aladdin like the last few scenes to that one, and I just didn't. I was a bit of a scaredy cat.
Dues. Have you seen the live action remake they did recently?
Yeah, I
Oh,
did.
I didn't watch it. What's it like?
It's not too bad actually.
Okay.
If Aladdin is because Aladdin is not one of my favorites,
Yeah.
I accepted it better. But I feel like if Aladdin is like one of your favorites, you probably won't like it.
Okay, I could see that.
Or maybe you would. I don't know.
I've seen clips of Will Smith's scenes on YouTube and wasn't massively impressed.
No, he's definitely not Robin Williams. But
No, he's not.
he did his best, and to feel like Robin Williams' shoes, it's a big thing.
That is a big job, yeah, for sure. Robin Williams
It's a
used
big
to
job.
ring up Steven Spielberg when he was making Schindler's List and do practice he would do comedy routines on the phone to Steven Spielberg to cheer him up because he found Schindler's List so draining. And a lot of the routines and stuff he did there became the things the genie said in Aladdin because it was around the same time.
Amazing.
Isn't that an odd little bit of
Yeah.
synchronicity between those two projects? You wouldn't expect them to be connected, but yeah.
But I think you should watch it. Just have an opinion because I think it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I probably will eventually. Yeah, I will. I will. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is the very, very famous, very, very popular 1992, I think. Was it here? 1990. Where are you? 1991, Beauty and the Beast.
A beautiful film.
Love the film. I was very cautious about the live action film. Love the live action film. Very good. But yeah, so well, it's very famous. This witch offers a rose to this really like selfish and self-absorbed prince because she wants some shelter. He refuses. The witch, to punish him, she transforms him into a beast and all of his servants into furniture or cutlery. And he will stay this beast until somebody will fall in love with him, even looking as a beast. And in a village nearby, lives Belle, who has a suitor who's an absolute what's a word for him? Maurice? No,
misogynist?
Gaston. Yeah, he's a terrible man, but she doesn't like him. And her dad goes disappearing, and she finds him in this castle where the beast is. She trades herself, and she says, she stays instead of the dad. And then slowly, they start falling in love. It is beautiful. I love it. It's a beautiful film. The scene where they dance in the hall is iconic. It's amazing. All the characters are great. The music is fantastic. It shows that you don't have to, you can fall in love with the personality and not with the face.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But no, I really liked it. I thought it was amazing, and I still think it's amazing. And I really enjoy that film. I found that really terrifying as well. When she goes in the woods to get to the castle, I thought that was like, ah.
Yeah.
Disney are really good at making things. Were really good making things really scary for kids. I feel. I'm not sure if because I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not sure if like they're still scary for kids as they were scary for me as a kid.
I don't know if they're
But,
trying to do. I don't know if they've worked out how to make things scary in computer animation the way they were able to in traditional animation yet. I'm thinking to their recent movies, and I can't think of any of them that are genuinely scary. But I don't know. Like the Wreck-It Ralph movies aren't trying to be scary. The Frozen movies don't really do that. Moana doesn't really. No, it's not really the vibe of them recently, is it?
Yeah, but like those trees are terrifying. You know, when she's in the woods and there's everything and the castle is terrifying and they're pretty scary moments when you have like a 7-year-old watching.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, I love it. I really, really love it. You've seen Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, I didn't see it at the time, and I didn't see it for a long time. But I think I watched it when we lived in Japan one day. I did actually. I was really, really sick. I think it was the only time I had to stay off work.
Yeah,
and that was a whole mess. But I stayed at home because I was really ill, and I watched Beauty and the Beast for the first time, and it's brilliant. It's a really, really good film. I agree.
Good. I like it too.
Thanks.
What's your number one?
My number one is sort of my nostalgia pick. And it was the first movie that I put on my list when I started doing the list. I was like, well, I've got to have that on it. But originally it was like further down the list. And then I watched it today. I watched it this afternoon when I had lunch. And I was like, every single scene, I was like, I remember this, I remember this, I remember this. I love this bit, I love this bit. And it all just came flooding back to me. And I was like, do you know what? This is my number one. I really, really love it. It's definitely kind of the one that I watched over and over and over again when I was a kid, and it's like my nostalgia pick, and it's 1986's The Great Mouse Detective.
Ah, cool.
Have you seen it?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it's weird because it's called The Great Mouse Detective, but the video I had, I'm certain it was called Basil the Great Mouse Detective.
I've seen it in Italian.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it was. Pretty sure it was like Basil something.
Yeah, I think it was called Basil the Great Mouse Detective when it came out on video, but I think when it was originally released, it was just called The Great Mouse Detective, and there's a reason for that, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But yeah, I've always thought of it as Basil the Great Mouse Detective. It's a story of a young girl, Olivia. Is she called Olivia? Olivia Flavisham, a little girl mouse in London. And it's basically, it's like real London, full-size London, but there's all these tiny little mouse buildings all over the place. And her dad is like a toy maker, and the film opens with this. If we're talking about Disney being scary, this bat in this movie is terrifying. Fidget, this peg-legged bat thing that's the henchman in this movie. The movie opens with him bursting into this toy shop and kidnapping this girl's dad. And then she's lost and alone, and she finds Dr. Dawson, who takes this girl to Basil, the mouse detective, who lives on Baker Street. Basically lives in like the basement of Sherlock Holmes' house, because it's all a bit of a Sherlock Holmes riff. And I love Sherlock Holmes, so I'm always here for this. I love detective stories. And when she first goes into Basil's house, you see all these different like detecting machines. He's got these shoes spinning around, putting shoe prints on paper and all these different things. And when he turns up, he's got this disguise on, and then he shoots a gun into some pillows and analyzes the bullet to see if it matches this other bullet. And it's all this cool detective stuff that I just really, really love. The voice acting's really great, and it's got one of, in my opinion, the all-time underrated Disney villains in Ratigan. This sewer rat, king of crime. He calls himself the Napoleon of crime. Voiced by the perfect and wonderful Vincent Price, one of the all-time great horror movie actors, voicing this character in this movie. And he's great. He's scary. He sings this song. And there's this bit when he's singing this song where one of his henchmen accidentally refers to him as a rat. So he kicks him outside and rings this bell to call this cat that he has to come and eat this henchman of his. And it's scary stuff. And yeah, I really love this movie. What have you seen it? What do you think of it?
I watched it when I was a long time ago, but like from what I remember of it, it was super fun. But it was scary.
Yeah, it's scary. The Ratigan's henchman is this bat called Fidget that kind of speaks and it's like like that, and is just really terrifying. There's this scene where they're in. Basil and Dawson and Olivia have gone to this toy shop place on the hunt, and they've found all these sold toy soldiers of Buckingham Palace guards, and they've noticed that all these guards have had their uniforms taken, which is relevant to the plot later. And as Basil and Dr. Dawson are discussing this, Olivia wanders off to this pram, and she looks in the pram, and the bat has gotten into the pram and dressed up as a little baby, and then just leaps out of this pram and grabs her, and it is terrifying. It scared me so much when I was a kid, because it just comes launching out of this pram going it's like, oh, and it's great. It's so good. So yeah, and it came out at a time when Disney animation movies had not really succeeded for a little while. The Black Cauldron came out the year before, which was a bit of a big flop, and it did really well. It got good reviews and made decent money, and it kind of led the way to the Disney Renaissance of like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. Like it sort of paved the way for those movies to come by Walt Disney kind of, I think they were considering focusing less on animation because they thought that they'd sort of lost it a bit. And when this movie succeeded, they were like, no, let's keep going. And then they put a bunch of projects on and stuff. And those projects became, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, all of those films, which are really popular. So it's kind of, they all owe a little bit of a debt, I think, to The Great Mouse Detective. But the interesting thing I found out today on Wikipedia was that the movie was originally meant to be called Basil of Baker Street, which is a better title. It's a cool, evocative title. But a movie came out the year before called Young Sherlock Holmes, which was that was a live action film. Interestingly, it was the first movie to extensively use CGI animation as well, which is interesting because The Great Mouse Detective has a sequence set inside Big Ben at the end where they used CGI, and that was the first extensive use of CGI in an animated movie. So these two films have a link, and they also have this CGI link. Anyway, Young Sherlock Holmes was a big flop. The Disney executives decided that they didn't want this movie to be too closely connected to Sherlock Holmes because they had this idea then that Sherlock Holmes movies weren't going to be popular, if you see what I mean. So they rewrote this movie. They retitled the film. And the filmmakers and the animators really didn't like that they'd done this. They really wanted it to be called Basil of Baker Street and not The Great Mouse Detective. So one of the animators, Ed Gombert, wrote a satirical memo that went around Disney where he suggested other generic titles for older Disney movies that they could change it to, if you see what I mean. So see if you can get what film each of these titles is meant to be describing.
Okay.
Yeah?
Oh my God. Yeah.
The first one, some of these are great. The first one is 7 Little Men Help a Girl.
Snow White.
Yeah.
And 7 Dwarfs.
Then we've got The Wonderful Elephant Who Could Really Fly.
Dumbo.
Yeah. The Little Deer Who Grew Up.
The Little
Deer Who Grew Up.
Bambi.
Yeah. The Girl with the See-Through Shoes.
Oh, Sleeping Beauty. No, Cinderella. What am I talking about? Cinderella.
I did the same thing. I was like, is it Sleeping? No, it's Cinderella. Cinderella. Yep. This is my favourite one. This one's great. 2 Dogs Fall in Love.
Oh, Lady in the Tramp.
Yeah. I just love to imagine that there might be a movie called 2 Dogs Fall in Love.
He was right, though.
Yeah. And then there's 2 more. Puppies Taken Away.
101 Dalmatians.
Yeah, and then this one's really good as well. A Boy, a Bear, and a Big Black Cat.
Oh, The Jungle Book.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, apparently they thought that the name Basil, to call it Basil of Baker Street, they thought Basil was too English. So that's why they took this.
Okay.
Just, come on. Anyway,
Okay.
The Great Mouse Detective is a movie I adore. Similar to Winnie the Pooh and maybe Ralph Breaks the Internet, I feel like it's one of the slightly less beloved Disney movies. So if you haven't seen it, if you're listening and you haven't seen it, go and check it out. It is a really, really fun time. And it's like an hour and 10 minutes long. It's one of those shorter ones. So, yeah. All right, what's your number one?
My number one
Is it Two Dogs Fall in Love?
I nearly put that one. I do love Two Dogs Fall in Love. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Mine. This one is big inflatable balloon saves lives.
Big inflatable balloon saves lives.
In far land.
In far land.
In far land.
Is it recent or old?
Yeah, it's recent.
Big inflatable balloon saves lives in far land.
Inflatable balloon with arms saves lives.
Oh, Big Hero 6.
Yeah,
Okay.
my number one is Big Hero 6.
Really?
I love Big Hero 6. I watched it for the
Wow.
first time maybe like a year ago.
Okay.
When I first got Disney Plus, I was like, I have to watch this film. And I think I watched it another couple of times after that because I really liked it. I think it's just like it's just the evolution of Disney has arrived to this moment where I just like, although they don't do scary anymore, they do sad. And I was actually upset and cried in this film. And I felt like it could be really, really good for children and really good for adults, as I'm an adult. And yeah, and I just love it. And boy, it's a story about hero, a kid, whiz kid lives in San Francisco, which is something, like San Francisco and Tokyo.
That's the idea.
And he's very good at robot fighting. And he's got a bigger brother who is also a genius, but unfortunately he stuff happens that made me cry. But yeah, his brother creates this big this thing which is called
Baymax.
Baymax. He makes Baymax, who is basically a care balloon that cares about you if you're not very well, and it's just perfect. Baymax is perfect, and you just how they can make you really love something that hasn't got an expression is amazing, isn't it? Like this big inflatable balloon is just, when you just feel for it, and you don't know why.
Yeah.
It's just a robot, but it's not just a robot. But he hasn't got a face. But he has got a face. Oh, it's beautiful. But yeah, tragedy happens, and there is a big villain that they have to defeat. And yeah, that's it really. And it's beautiful. I love it. I love how they portrayed Tokyo and San Francisco. I love that it's a bit of both worlds. They combine the worlds really, really well. And it's something that I talked about even in when I watch Detective Pikachu. I love when they create worlds that are the world that but elevated in a different way. And I just love that. I love the animation. I really, really enjoyed it. And I that's why I put it as my number one. I was surprised too. You've seen it, of course.
Well, so I've only seen it once, and I didn't like it.
Oh.
But I've always felt like, because my reaction to it was that it felt like a sort of uninspired pastiche of better superhero stories. And that it wasn't doing anything new or interesting itself.
Yeah.
It was just sort of playing around with Marvel stuff, but the Marvel movies. But I'm saying that, but I've always had this lingering feeling like I didn't give it a fair shot, and that I want to watch it again. So it's kind of on my... I actually had a list of movies that I wanted to watch for this episode to see whether they'd have a place. And like Winnie the Pooh was one of those, and Ralph Breaks Internet one of those. And so was Big Hero 6, but I didn't get back to it. So I want to watch it again at some point to kind of give it another chance, because I think I might have been unfair on it. And I was just feeling a bit salty that day.
Yeah, I think you should. Because I think it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think it's really, really good.
Like I really like Baymax. Like Baymax makes me laugh looking at him.
Yeah.
But just the film
yeah.
itself. So I will watch it again one day. But
Yes.
I didn't like it the first
Great
time I watched it. But like I said earlier, there's been plenty of movies that I watched with preconceptions about what they were going to be like, and then later went back and liked them. So, I'll probably do that with Big Hero 6, I'm sure.
You never know.
Yeah, exactly. So, shall we go through our lists again?
Yes, please.
Cool. So my list was number 5, The Jungle Book. Number 4, Ralph Breaks the Internet. Number 3, Winnie the Pooh. Number 2, Aladdin. And number 1, Basil of Baker Street.
Great list. So my top 5. Number 5, The Little Mermaid. Number 4, The Sword in the Stone. Number 3, Lilo and Stitch. Number 2, Beauty and the Beast. I find it really hard not to say Beauty and the Beast. Number 1, Big Hero 6.
Nice.
Yes.
And I won't spend too long on them, but I do have a little set of honourable mentions that I'll just run through. So, obviously, The Lion King is great. Zootopia. Have you seen Zootopia?
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
That's
I love
such a good
Zootopia.
film. Mulan,
It's so
which was
good.
number one. Mulan's kind of stands with the films I've listed today. I adore Mulan. Beauty and the Beast, which you've talked about. Hercules, which you've talked about before as well. I really like. Also Moana, which obviously we like. Snow White. I have great memories of watching that as a kid. Pinocchio is my mum's favourite. I really like Pinocchio. Fantasia is flawed and long, but weird and cool as well.
Yeah.
Dumbo is the pink elephant sequence in Dumbo is great. Bambi, The Rescuers is good. The Fox and the Hound I've always had a weird soft spot for. Again, that's one of the lesser known ones. The Emperor's New Groove was another one that was on my list to watch again, because I think if I watched it again I'd really like it, because I've only seen it the once and I remember loving it. Atlantis The Lost Empire, again, one of the underseen ones. I think it's cool, and it's another one I want to rewatch soon. Tangled is good. Wreck-It Ralph, obviously. Frozen, 101 Dalmatians. That's my honorable mentions.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I would put also. I really like the Three Caballeros. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I've never seen it.
It was
I've
like
never
really
seen many of
old,
those kind of really old ones where they're packaging together a few different stories and stuff.
Like, I've got really fond memories of it, but I'm not sure how correct they were. So I was like, they're pretty fun though.
Yeah. The cool thing about Disney Plus is that they're all there now.
Yeah. True. Yeah, but there's some amazing thing like WandaVision. So and from what you haven't said, probably Lady and the Tramp. I really, really liked it. Cinderella was my go-to. Oliver and Company.
I've never seen it. I really want to watch Oliver and Company. I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's really good. Really, really good.
Cool. Okay, so homework time.
But you.
So you've seen The Jungle Book, you've seen Aladdin, you've seen The Great Mouse Detective, so it's between Winnie the Pooh and Ralph Breaks the Internet. I kind of wanted to set you Ralph Breaks the Internet, because I would really like to know what you think of it, but if you haven't seen Wreck-It Ralph, I don't see much point. What are you doing?
I'm very excited, yeah.
Oh, what? So what are you going to watch?
Oh, I thought you said Wreck-It Ralph.
Well, I'd like to watch Wreck-It... Well, yeah, but Wreck-It Ralph isn't technically on my list. Will you watch Ralph Breaks the Internet as well? Or is that too much?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I can watch both.
Okay, let's do that then. Because I think you should watch that Winnie the Pooh movie at some point, because I love it. But
I'll watch all three.
Yeah,
Don't
but
worry
I'd love your take on like the Disney princess scene in Ralph Breaks the Internet and stuff. I'd really like to know what you make of that. Cool. What am I watching?
You're watching Lilo and Stitch.
Good. I've wanted to see it for a while, so I'm happy to watch Lilo and Stitch. I'll just fast forward through the Elvis stuff. That'll be fine.
No, it's part of it. You might start liking Elvis after this. I don't know. It's just lovely.
Never. Don't you dare accuse me of liking Elvis. Thank you very much.
You're so like. See, now you're salty. You're just gonna like, oh my god, I hate it because Elvis. You know.
No, I'm being silly. He's fine. I used to love. Do you remember that song? A little less conversation, a little more action.
Yeah, a little more action. Please.
And they did that. Junkie XL, I think, did the remix of it that was on the night. I had that on CD single, and I played it so much my grandmother made me turn it off. So I think we've all had enough of this song now, George. Anyway,
cool. Next... But before we finish, what are your recommendations of this week?
I would definitely say the Netflix film Red Dot People should check that out. That's a really cool new Netflix movie. And those episodes of the Adam Buxton podcast that we were talking about are really worth a listen. Stuart Lee, Robbie Williams, Paul McCartney, they're pretty entertaining listens. What about you?
Definitely listen to the Staves.
Oh yeah,
Their
I'm going to do
album,
that.
Good Woman.
Yeah, good stuff. So next time we're going to try something a little bit different, and we're going to be listing our 5 favourite music performances on YouTube. So, you know, somebody will go on Saturday Night Live or a late night chat show or Tiny Desk concert or any of these things, and these performances all end up on YouTube, and some of them are truly spectacular and amazing, including, well, we'll talk about next week, but yeah, so we'll be listing our favourite of those next week. So join us for that. Please email us, contact us any way you can on social media send us your lists, thoughts, opinions. Please subscribe to us if you haven't done so yet. Rate and review us on all the Apple podcasts and everywhere else you can review podcasts. And send us your lists. Please send us your lists. We'd love to read them out.
Yes.
It'd be great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I love you.
Bye.